panel, and all of them, other than Mr. Datar, have spoken in the earlier 2 days, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time introducing everyone. Towards the extreme left, I have Arvind Datar. He is a senior advocate and practices in the Supreme Court, based in Chennai, one of the well-known tax and constitutional lawyers, and has a lot of treaties and titles in his name. Towards Mr. Datar's right is Dr. Marcos Pereira. I've had the privilege of interacting with him in the PSC meetings and in the Pacific Rim event. Welcome, Dr. Pereira. Towards my left is Mark Levy. Mark Levy doesn't need an introduction to India. For those of you who don't know, the bright line theory that we talk about in the context of transfer pricing on marketing intangibles, apparently he holds the patents for that. And towards my right is Professor Frederick Zimmer. He is a well-known academician, and I didn't realize that the 2002 general report on IFA was done by you. Welcome, Frederick. And we are also waiting for Mr. Pramod Kumar, who is an accountant member in ITAT and based out of Calcutta. So in line of the works. Given the fact that in the last 2 to 3 days we have debated intensively the whole topic on substance over form, I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time going through the context. It gives rise to a lot of debate, starting with moral and ethical issues, how correct it is morally for the taxpayer to make use of form over substance in planning its tax affairs. We've seen cases dating back to 1930s on this important subject. We also realize that over the years, the concept of beneficial ownership did come up in the treaty. Later in the debate, we are also going to talk about, besides the judicial-driven substance over form test, how the likes of OECD and UN are amending their treaties to bring a kind of substance over form test in the model convention. So beneficial ownership is a classic example of that, and that's a very hotly debated topic in India as well. I think it's also important for us to mention that there is a role that statutory rules play in the interpretation. The brief for this session is to talk about the judicial doctrine, so we are not going to get into this debate what kind of GAR is prevalent. But we certainly have a debate which talks about, should we have a worldwide GAR, or should we have a model convention that directs countries as to how they should legislate the GAR provision. We are also going to look into the literal view versus the purposive interpretation. As most of you know, in the literal view interpretation, it is the form that gets precedence over substance, and in the purposive interpretation, it is the substance that takes over form. Except that if there is a conflict between the two, tax authorities and judicial authorities do look at the purposive interpretation rather than the literal interpretation. So coming back on substance over form, we debated what kind of judicial doctrines do really exist. And this is not Google searched terms, but we actually realized that international cases have been decided around these concepts. I also discovered in the morning that there is a concept of colorable device in addition to the doctrine of piercing or lifting the corporate veil. Let's straight away jump into with the panel and talk about the lifting or the piercing of the corporate veil. It's more a concept that was derived out of common law. So if you look at the UK case decisions, the lifting of the corporate veil and the piercing of the corporate veil is very much prevalent. Surprisingly, I was surprised to see that the first case where this concept was used was the Meenakshi Mills case in 1966. Let me turn over to you, Mr. Datar. You have intensively studied that case, and then we realized that subsequently tribunals in India, particularly in the Ansaldo Energy case, have used this piercing of the corporate veil before we actually get into the other doctrines.